Hi guys, today I thought we could sketch out this little hedgehog, and what I'd like you to have for this work is to have two pens, one where you can control the value of the ink that it drops by the amount of pressure that you apply, and we'll use this first pen for our shading work, and then your second pen can be a crappy one that's a little bit blotchy, and we'll use the crappy pen to do the dark work on the quills. So for the key features of a hedgehog, what we want to make sure we capture is some length with the snout, a recessed eye, and the curved body. And I think if we can manage to get that in, that's going to be pretty good. His head is turned slightly toward us, and we can see that by the lower jaw here has a little bit, we can see a little bit of the section that goes down the other side of his face, and also with the muzzle there's a little bit of a curve to it here, so he's not flat, he's turned toward us a little bit. And what else? The quills themselves have white tips, so we have to keep that in mind, that when we're dropping color to put in the quills, that we don't get carried away and make them like really long, because they do have the white tips. So these little hedgehogs, they curl up into a ball, and all their quills stick up, and that protects them from being eaten by a fox. And this fur that they have is only on their tummy, and I have no idea how we're going to manage this, but let's just start with his nose, and we'll just take it from there. And I want to have my sketch actually not too big, because I don't want to have to get myself into a situation where I've got like a lot of real estate to kind of like shade and whatnot. So I'm just going to try to keep mine maybe like a little bit on the smaller side. Normally I just want to go for like not too crappy a sketch, and then I'm happy. Forget about the size, but anyway, we'll just see how this goes. I think it's kind of a good exercise in continuing our work with shading and using those skills to try to capture this. Let's have this. His snout comes down just a very little bit, and then we've already got. We've just got different tones here. I just don't want to get too lost, because when we do our birds, we kind of have anchor points along the length of the sketch, right? This guy's a little bit. Have I taken this back far enough? I don't know. We'll see. I just want to do this coloring, and then we've got some, that's that, and then something a little bit darker. So the hedgehog, like, they root around in the ground underneath the hedges and stuff like that. So their little eye has to be well protected back away from the end of the snout, right? So this is why we see the eye large and recessed in the face. And it is quite a large eye, so you can see how there's quite a bit of reflection off the eyeball itself with this great big lighter patch. So we'll make sure that we've got that properly included in our sketch. And what you can do is just stay away from that completely and worry about, coloring it in later. So we want to make sure that we've got good contrast. And then some other little shading around the eye. And just trying to actually go from one little dark section to the next to sort of like lead me or guide me through the drawing and just see how that works. And make sure that I'm not drifting too far away. So we haven't dealt with fur and fun stuff like that in the past, so this is kind of like a good, you know what, I don't think good is the right word, but this is kind of a different type of skill to practice with our sketching. Okay, so if we've got this kind of, now remember we can always go back and bump up the colors for more contrast as we need to, but we just want to get down a little bit for now as a guide. Let's go and do a little bit more work underneath his muzzle. And we're totally not going to worry about the whiskers and all that kind of stuff right now. And just really trying to pay attention to the areas that are dark and get those down with our pen, because that's all we can do. We are just adding shadow to our paper, and by adding shadow we are bringing out our little hedgehog. Now, I'm not completely happy with this pen that I'm using, but that's okay. And then there's more shading with the muzzle. Turn your paper from side to side if it's easier for you to to sketch that way. Okay, now if we think about the bridge of his nose, this is all we kind of have a bridge, and then we do have a few darker sections that go up, not many, but just we can add a few of those, kind of keep ourselves oriented. And then around the eye, just a few, kind of leading back to the quills that are on the top of his head. Yeah, turn your paper if it's easier. Let's just work out from his face here, and we'll come back and do more work on his muzzle in a bit. But let's just see if we can get a couple impressions, and there is more. See, we don't want solid lines, right, you guys? Because everything is broken by like whiskers or fur. And we're restricted by what we can add to our sketch, which is only the shadows or depth, right, where the there's density and the light isn't in there. So just kind of working away on the shadow under his chin that creeps down to his chest. And the fur is different lengths and goes in different directions. Now, if you find yourself drawing a little bit tight and a little bit small, like me, then I feel sorry for you. That's okay. If we've got space to kind of like bump things up and darken them later, so much the better. I just want to try to get in enough anchor points so when I'm working away on him, I can remember like where I am. Now all this shading that is actually his body and stuff like that, maybe I'll worry about that later. Let's just, okay, so we've got his eye and we've got some of the changes in density of the fur around here that comes out. And then how about, I gotta, it's tricky just trying to add this border of little tiny quills here. But what we'll, so we're actually like working on the white, and I just want to get some of this type of marking in to define where we want to end the white and start putting in the darkness of the quills. This area by his eye kind of creeps a little bit closer. And how about using straight pen strokes rather than back and forth? Why don't we do that? because if we use our straight pen strokes, it helps us to kind of like break up. So we've got the eyeball and we've got this distance here. So eyeball, and then this is the border of the eye, and then we've got this distance, and it's not that big. So let's pull in a little bit, break it up. Don't want to have it too even. See how it's kind of like straight down here? Let's make this a little bit straight. And then we've got some darkness right here. And what that's going to be is the body behind the ear. I'm guessing. Okay, so if we've got this section right here, we can just add a couple more lines from his, and then we've got super dark right here, which is the interior of the ear. So let's be very careful. Don't make it a uniform edge, because when we break up the edge, then we have our jagged edge with the white. But we can't draw white, we can only draw dark. So we want to have a jagged edge for the dark that goes up. To have the depth of the ear there. Now where do we want to go? His ear. And that looks like fur, you guys. It looks like fur to me. So how about we start pulling some of our dark lines down and around. This fur is growing down, this fur is growing up. Just to make things a little bit tricky for us. Okay, I don't want to get screwed up spending too much time on that, because what we need to do is emphasize the area behind it, and that's going to bring the ear forward. And then we can darken those parts later. Now what we want to do is, we've got the eye. This big white spot is kind of like bugging me, so I'm going to shade in my eye a little bit, just to take the glare off it. Him looking at me saying I'm doing such a lousy job. And to that I say, give me time. And there's just a little bit of tissue coloring around that. But this is the type of detail work that we can do when we've got most of him down. And this is the kind of stuff that really makes him come to life, right? Okay, how about, if you're up for it, how about we switch to our crappy pen that drops a lot of ink, and I want to start adding the darkness with the quills, just because I need the area on his forehead. I need his face kind of done to help me figure out where I am with the rest of the body. And if that doesn't make sense to you, then like, too bad. It makes sense to me. So we've got our short quills around his face. And if you've drawn the face too big, we can get our darker quills in a little bit closer to shorten his forehead. Now, let's put in these dark quills that are like behind his eye. It's his ear. Duh. You know what I meant? There's quite a bit of density there. And then here, behind his eye. Oh, I said it again, you guys. Ear. Just shut up. I want to get these quills in here. And more in here. And how about we just pull some of these downward. Now, where do we want to go? To his, a little bit along his back. Remember, the quills have white tips, so if we're seeing mainly white and not a lot of dark, it's because the quills are laying flat on his body. But where we see the dark, there's a curve of his body, and we're capturing the dark of the quills. And they are all like rounded, okay? So just as long as you end up with a little hedgehog that kind of looks like a little ball, you'll be fine. Because they are incredibly flexible through the spine, right? Because they curl up into little balls. Well, whatever you do is going to be good. But we can still like make sure we have a pretty good shape. Okay, so we've got his, I just want to double check. I want to go back and double check to see what I've done here. So we've got his forehead. Some of the quills are coming down. Okay, and then I want to have more curvature along his back. And maybe push out his bum a little bit. And then this is going to be his back, where his back leg is going to go. And then, thank goodness, he's sitting in the grass. And then we've got a density of quills and color here. And then just giving the impression of the curves through his body. I think that's good enough for now. Let's go back to our pen where we can actually do some shading around his ear. Just blend this a little bit better. And let's just actually start working them up. Define where his ear is going to be, like this. When you're doing your shading, try not to lose too many of those nice jagged lines that we were so careful to put in. But I just want to start actually working him up so that he looks a little bit more like a hedgehog. Okay, we've got this. Okay, now where do we want to focus our efforts? I want to just basically start again. And if we've got the basic shape down and we sort of have like enough to work with, then we can start fixing them up, increasing our shading, going back over places. And blending areas together if we've kind of, you know, if we've done things that are completely out of position or too dark, let's just try it here. I've got myself all confused around the eye. What have I done? This is too dark. This isn't dark enough. These sections need to kind of come together. If you spend too much time just looking at the individual sections, then it's easy for me to get a little bit too buggered up, language, but just a little bit too confused about how all the little pieces work together. But that's okay, because like if you understand how he's supposed to go, let's see. And we'll figure out how to do the whiskers later. But I think we can just get in some of the major colorings and stuff. That'll be a good place to start. It's underneath the jaw, and then a little bit more shading with his body. I think if we can just kind of get down the impression of the fur, we can add some of the shadow, and then we'll do that by just working on different directions and what seems to grow in what way. I think I want to have more quills through here. He's very fluffy, isn't he? Seems fluffy to me. Thank goodness for the grass. Okay, and if we work from his snout, see this border of fur? Kind of goes almost straight down. I'm trying to do light pressure, and it's so light that I'm like barely leaving any marks at all, but that's okay. Okay, now let's kind of go around and darken up. Let's darken up the white. We're just going to be super careful. Little bit of this fur, nice broken edge, and then with density under his chin and down into his chest, and then some changes in the, just some little darker bits in the fur. And we'll do more work with the crappie pen for the quills. Okay, how about we put in some whiskers? That'll kind of like make me feel a little bit better if we've got some whiskers around. Plus it's easy to do. And whiskers are white, and we're putting them in with our dark pen, but that's okay, right? Okay, so remember the eye is like an important feature. I'm going to go heavy on the cuteness. So if you need a few minutes to kind of like work it up, figure it out, then we can do that. I've gone too dark along the face, you guys. All this is too dark on mine. It's looking like a little raccoon. So back yours off Or don't add any shadow if you've done the same as I have. I've screwed up the values there. And made that too dark. Now we can just make sure the area for his ear is nice and dark. Get some good contrast there. And then the tissue around his ear is a little bit lighter. It's lighter in color and it's being caught by the light. So it's a double whammy of lightness. Now, let's just, I want to make the ear a bit smaller, and to do that I've got to push the quills in at the back behind the ear. Get rid of some of that width there. Take this in and some more shading down where it joins his face. Okay. See how, okay, and then I want to go back to, can't make up my mind with my pens, but I need a little bit more height at the top of his back. I'm talking about the top of his back, and then what do? I go back and I'm working around his face. See this distance from his eye where the color changes here? Mine's too far. So I need to bring more color down closer to his eye. And this will snug up his face. And even this jagged line, I wish I had more white going back into his ear, but I don't. So what I'm gonna do is just use this pen to add a little bit of darkness, and this is I'm pulling the white into the ear to get a little bit better change along this area of his face. And then shading there. Now, how is yours with regard to the curve of his back and going along the bottom of his back and into his bum? Because we want to make sure he's kind of like cute and curvy. So check your sketch, and if you need to push something out, like push out his bum or push out his haunch so that we've got more curve, then just use your the pen that you've been using for shading. Just do that to change his profile a little bit. You know, I think I want to just pull this down. I just want to make mine like a little bit longer. Okay, I think this is like not too bad. And but what I want to do now is see how on the sketch we've got, how do we keep ourselves oriented? We've got all the dark quills that are like along his back, behind his ear, and up to his face. And I would need to darken my quills for this section here. And I feel like I've got too much fur here. So I want to carefully, because I don't want to screw them up too much, but I want to add more of the, I want to reduce the amount of fur that I've done by putting in a couple more of the darker quills in this section. Let's see how some of them are almost lined up like a little band. Just want to make sure that we've got a little bit of darkness on this side. Okay, so I've got his ear, the shadow under his ear, and maybe a few more quills with the density here on his back. It's hard to do because you don't want to, if you keep adding quills, then your pen marks go on top of each other, and then it's like you're coloring and you've lost the white definition, and we don't want to lose those white tips. Okay, time to go back to our other pen, and I do want to make them like a little bit longer. Get this fur down. Coming this way, and we've got different densities of fur. I almost feel like I don't want to be looking at the reference photo anymore, and I just want to work away at fixing him the way I want him to be. Which, as you know, is completely legal. He's so fluffy. Okay, why don't we do that? Let's just forget about the reference photo. And I just want to start working this guy up the way I want to. I want to have better definition on his mouth, shading under his jaw. Like when we sort of know how he's supposed to be put together, I always feel like this part is free reign. He already looks like a hedgehog. We just want to make him look like a better hedgehog. Oh, you know what? If you can, if your eye isn't dark enough, switch to your crappy blotchy pen and get some nice deep color in there to really kind of shade out that eye. You might as well do the same with the nostrils and that little fold there. Any other places where we need to have some really good depth? Color. And what I can do is just push this out a little bit. Good. Just want to get them to the point where I'm happy with them. This might be a long video. And some good darkness for the interior of the ear. And also behind the ear. Boy, this fur is a real treat, isn't it? Holy macaroni. But, you know, good for us to try with our shading and whatnot. I saw a little mouse when I was finishing my run this morning. And I thought, oh, we'll do a little mouse on one of our videos. Can't be any worse than a hedgehog. Yeah, but this fur is, see, this line, it's too heavy on my sketch. And to break it up, I need to kind of like try to I can't erase it, but I sure do want to. And his jaw line, actually, this is pretty good here. Let's put in a couple more. Get his whiskers in there. And do I need to still shorten the face? A little bit more. By pulling in a couple of those. I think that's all right. His quills are a little bit longer than what I've put down. You remember they do have white tips. I don't know, he's not too bad. And then let's just bump up some of the color of these darker quills in this section of his body, it's very tempting just to kind of do a whole bunch, but of course we can't, because then it'll just turn into a clumpy mess, and we don't want to have a clumpy mess. He still has to look like he's a little hedgehog. How about this? This will be something that we could work on, this kind of like band of where we see some darker quills that are showing the darkness because of the curve of his bum. We can have a curved bum. Honey, I'm just finishing a video, so no talking. You can make noise. I'm almost done. Oh, you can cough as well. It doesn't matter. Okay, now I just want to break up it looks too organized here on mine, where the fur and the quills overlap. So I just want to try to break this up a little bit. And otherwise, I think he's pretty good to go. Yeah, you know what, you guys? Let's stop here. I think this is good enough. But I'm kind of, this line is way too heavy. And the only way to sort of, you know, I can't undo it. Let's darken his chest a little bit. Okay, our first attempt at fur. I'm sure you really enjoyed it. I know I did. Okay, this is our little hedgehog. Good enough for the wall, I hope. Okay, you guys, as always, thank you so much for your company. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you next time.